I didn't get any more clarity on the fire station that I was hoping, so I really don't have anything to say. So I want to tell you.
Where's Stella Vista? Is that the one over by Ridgemark?
The what?
Stella Vista? Is that across from Ridgemark? Okay, D6? Okay, so 6. Okay. Are they going to the stop signs pretty soon at Raiders?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's San Benito County Board of Supervisors meeting for August 8, 2017. Call to order at 9:03. Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor Medina, will you please lead us off in Jerry Munster's absence?
Ready? Salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a acknowledged certificate of posting? Is there a second? Motion by Rivas, second by Botello. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We will now do a presentation. The Board of Supervisors will present a proclamation to Jacob Hart Children's Cancer Support Services declaring the month of September 2017 as Childhood Cancer Awareness. Supervisor Medina? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to come to the podium?
Honoring Jacob Hart Children's Support Service Declaration Childhood Cancer. Hey, take two. Honoring Jacob Hart Children's Cancer Support Services and Declaration of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas each day 42 children in the United States are diagnosed with cancer, and more than 40,000 children undergo treatment for cancer each year. And whereas cancer remains the leading cause of death by disease among children, more than asthma, diabetes, congenital abnormalities, and AIDS combined. Now, therefore, be resolved that the San Benito County Board of Supervisors do hereby declare September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the County of San Benito, and do hereby honor Jacob's Hart Children's Cancer Support Services for 19 years of outstanding support to our community, and acknowledge the organization's contributions to Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, honoring children with cancer in our community.
Is there a motion?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Thank you.
Good morning, and on behalf of Jacob's Heart, I would like to thank the Board of Supervisors and San Benito County for declaring September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month.
Now we go to public comments. This is an opportunity to address the board on items of interest not appearing on the agenda. No action may be taken unless provided by Government Code Section 54954-2. Any speaker cards?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Sean Tannenbaum.
Well, good morning, supervisors. It's great to see all of you again. We're about ready to embark. We're about 3 days away from having almost 3,000 students at San Benito High School District. It's an exciting time for the hay balers. We're just getting ready to clean up all of our dust and debris from our summer construction. We have Trustee Nemi and President Steve DeLay here, as well as a show of sign of support. This evening, the Board of Trustees will be taking action on our Measure U master plan, which, as you well know, hinges off the closure of Nash Road. I know I got up before the supervisors and talked about the safety aspect, but really looking at the journey that we've taken as a collaboration between the high school district, the city, and the county over the last 3 years. That was an immense amount of energy, time, fiscal resources to come to that agreement to close Nash Road so that we could proceed with having the safest learning and working environment for our students and staff, but also creating a safe alternative for our residents from the west side to the east side of Hollister to be able to do that. I encourage you to take the next step so that we can get the bypass road built, so that we can close Nash Road, so that we can create a master plan for our high school district for today and tomorrow. I thank you for this opportunity. I wish you well, and hopefully you'll see you at our board meeting this evening at 7 o'clock. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Thank you very much. Department head announcements. CEO Ray Espinosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have an announcement out of our RMA office. We have James Walgren here to give a quick announcement.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. James Walgren, Interim RMA Director. This is just a quick update on our initiation of the Highway 101 Commercial Corridor Study. As the board knows, the county adopted an updated 20-year general plan in 2015, and there was a subsequent housing element update completed as an element of the general plan in 2016. Those were both significant efforts to accomplish and will serve the county for a long time. One of the recommendations that came out of the general plan was to look at the 101 corridor and in specific 3 nodes of the corridor for a potential commercial development. And, typically that could be restaurants, hotels, perhaps gas stations, but we'd also like to put focus on potential office centers and work centers at those nodes. So this is just being initiated. We're working with the EMC planning group out of Monterey. They're the group that prepared the general plan for the county and went through a very extensive county official, other public agency official, community group, and public review process, of course, and that was completed and adopted. So they will be preparing the commercial node study. Scope of work, it's a work plan. We intend to present that work plan here shortly to the Planning Commission for their comment, and then we'll be bringing that to the board, and the work plan will essentially result in a budget and a funding decision for the board to make. And then we'll move forward with that study, and it'll have a public outreach component to it as well. And then just lastly, to note that the study is going to be funded entirely by the property owners at these 3 nodes. And I don't know if I mentioned, but the 3 nodes are the Bed Bell exit at the northernmost, the Highway 129-101 interchange, that's the second node, and then the Red Barn Flea Market area. So those are the 3 areas that have been identified. And there will be a reimbursement agreement prepared for board review that should be presented along with the work plan. And as I said, that should, if we take it to the Planning Commission first, it will be getting to the board a little bit later.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Walgren, thank you very much for this report. In fact, I was try to maybe track you down to see where this is at, and I'm really excited about the potential of moving forward within that corridor with some development. That's what this county needs, is more commercial development, more tax base. We've talked about it for years, and having all those property owners kind of grouped together really makes the project a lot easier, I think, for everybody. Do you have a timeline as far as how long it would take place for this, this rezoning or whatever that needs to happen before they can move forward with their applications?
Well, I plan to be able to get the work plan to the Planning Commission in September. Then we'll have a reimbursement agreement and the work plan to the board in October. And then this shouldn't be that complex of a study, so I would anticipate about a year. But that'll be further defined when we get the work plan.
And I have one last question for the intern director. There was some concern that maybe we would kind of look at all of our highway commercial nodes at the same time with the same consultant. Are we kind of backing away from that and just kind of focusing on the 101 corridor?
That's our recommendation. I mean, that can certainly change. We considered doing the 156 corridor and the other nodes that were identified, but it seemed to make this a more focused study would be more effective. But we can literally do them sequentially. We can do a phase 1, a phase 2, a phase 3, and just keep the same consultants on board and keep the same project moving forward.
I completely support your recommendation. A couple of those 101 nodes are ready to move right now, and probably being focused is the best way to accomplish that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. We have another announcement out of our administrative office. We have Louis Valdez, our management analyst, here to give the board a quick report.
Good morning, members of the board. We did want to bring to your attention that staff has, at the direction of the CAO's office, we have gone ahead and placed, I guess that's why I should wear my glasses, my other glasses. We have gone ahead, am I too cheap to buy reading glasses? So these are the issues that arise. So we've gone ahead and placed an ad in the capitalweekly.net, which did not come up here, for lobbying services, and we wanted to go ahead and show the board that we have posted that ad online, and that ad went live yesterday afternoon. The board, as you are all aware, budgeted for lobbying services, and so we have initiated that outreach to the Sacramento area, which is where the majority of the lobbying firms are located, and we have asked for several different items from those potential lobbyists. Of course, it's not coming up when I'm doing the meeting, but nevertheless, the ad asks for interested parties to submit a letter of interest, references the willingness to undergo a conflicts check, a listing of their most recent legislative accomplishments, and other criteria that are listed in the ad. So this particular ad should appear in this area here. Unfortunately, it's not coming up right now, but we wanted to make the board aware that we have initiated that, and that is currently underway.
If you scroll up, Louis, to the top under advertisement,
advertise. Right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Down below. There it is.
And there it is. All right. So if you click on that, nice little hyperlink there, and that'll bring up the ad. There we go. And that was reviewed by County Council. So I've asked all of those application materials to be forwarded to me, and then we will vet that through an ad hoc committee that hopefully the chair will appoint members to for our further review. Okay.
We'll look into it. See what
I believe that's already been. We've already, I think, outlined the members. Yeah, we'll have to double check who they are. I think Supervisor Rivas is on and the chair. But we'll verify that through
I believe it was myself and Supervisor Dela Cruz.
Okay. Yep. Very good. So when we receive those, this ad will run through probably the month of August. As you are all probably aware, the legislative session begins on the 15th in Sacramento. So maximum exposure is going to be given to the ad over the course of the weeks before and the weeks thereafter. So. Okay.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you.
We have another announcement out of our elections office. We have Joe Paul Gonzalez.
Good morning, Chair, Board of Supervisors. I just wanted to bring to your attention that last Thursday, on August 3rd, the Elections Department held a kind of a focus group. It was a usability testing group. We brought together 97 participants of the community, representing really a cross-section of the community, including any groups that have affiliations with partisan groups, the Republican Party, Democratic Party, ADA groups. We asked the members of the Board of Supervisors to attend. We're fortunate that Jerry Munzer and Jaime Dela Cruz were able to attend. And the whole purpose of this usability testing was to evaluate the 3 election systems that are available or will be available when they are certified by the Secretary of State. All 3 systems are not yet certified because they're brand new, but we're expecting them to be certified shortly. We had HART InterCivic, we had ES&S, and we had Dominion election systems. And so the participants had an opportunity to listen to the features that each system is able to the features that they have, and we're able to actually, use the systems to see what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, what expectations weren't met, and to rank those systems. So we're in the process of doing that ranking, and once we have brought together the other components of how we're going to select the system, for example, we need to evaluate from a fiscal standpoint which one is the most affordable, and then internally which system best suits our internal needs for vote by mail processing. As you know, vote by mail voting is now the predominant method of voting. So we'll be looking at those aspects, and then once we have those things have been analyzed, and we're prepared to make a recommendation, we'll come forward to the board and present that. Any questions?
Questions? None?
Okay. No. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe Paul. So the last item we have is RMA has asked us to pull item number 21 from the agenda. There's no update as of our last meeting, so we plan to have an update on Fire Station 3 at our next board meeting.
Okay.
So we'd like to pull that for the next meeting, and that is it, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
perfect.
Thank you.
Ray. All right. Supervisor Medina?
Nothing, sir.
Supervisor Patello?
Yes, thank you. I want to thank Supervisor Medina for joining me. I think it was last Thursday at the San Juan Bautista Planning Commission meeting. As maybe some of you have seen on the news and or heard, there was a great concern within the community that a massive project was being proposed along the 156 to the 101 corridor for a F1 Formula racetrack, and it made it to the Planning Commission meeting somehow, and it's rightfully so this time. I know San Juan Bautista has a reputation of opposing a lot of things, maybe most things, but this time they were absolutely right. It's certainly not the project for that area. For a multitude of reasons, and it was gratifying to see people getting involved with their appointed representatives and elected leaders to discuss very rationally why this project shouldn't be considered in that location. But I certainly went to the meeting, made sure that folks in my district knew that this was not an appropriate area for such a project, and that I was opposed to it, and I certainly appreciated the support from my colleague. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Vivas?
I have no updates, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I just want to say a big shout out to the Junior Giants League for San Benito County and Hollister. They did a wonderful job this year. My grandson played in them, and I remember actually attending the first practice. I volunteered as a parent coach because the actual coach had her child in there, and I said, "You coach, I will just be your assistant." And it was wonderful seeing the kids grow. I mean, we're talking about 5-6-year-old kids, having no knowledge of baseball and leadership to the last day, which was last Saturday, to knowing the concept of baseball and respect and leadership. Is just amazing how this program transformed a lot of these kids to have those set skills in which they can use in the future. That was a wonderful program, and I really want to thank the Junior Giants for the City of Hollister and San Benito County and their efforts. Thank you. I have no other no other item to say. Other than that, County Council, do we have?
Yes. I wanted to bring to the board's attention that we would like to add an additional item to the agenda under closed session, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation pursuant to subdivision D4 Government Code 54956.9. Due to the fact that after the posting of the agenda, it came to the county became aware of another matter which may involve the initiation of litigation, and due to the immediate need of the issues presented, this matter cannot wait until the next board meeting. So the board is requested to make a motion finding those urgency factors that the matter came to the county's attention after the posting of the agenda, and it cannot wait until the next meeting to add that item to the agenda if the board can make that finding by a 4/5 vote.
Okay. Is there any questions from the board? What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make the motion to add the closed session item.
Okay. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries 4-0. It passes. Okay, it will be in closed session. Also, once we're done with consent agenda, we will go directly into closed session. Okay. Do any of those fellow supervisors wish to pull any items out of consent?
All right, Robert. Number 6.
Number 6. Supervisor Botello?
No, none.
Supervisor Rivas? None. Okay. Anyone from the public? None? What's the pleasure of the board? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Number 6, Supervisor Medina.
Yes, I just wanted, I brought this up.
I brought this up simply to have Kevin give us an update on Lovers Lane, on the levees, along with the road construction that happened back in January and early February.
Absolutely. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to read an email from Jim Pulfer, the county senior engineer, who's taken the lead on both projects, the levee rebuild and the road reconstruction. The email was sent to a resident of Lovers Lane, and I know we have a small contingent here, so it applies to them as well. The planning for the levee and Lovers Lane repairs reconstruction are in the works. It is my intention to send out an invitation for a public information meeting. The notice should go out by the middle of this month, with the meeting scheduled about 2 weeks after that. We have a couple access/easement items to complete before we can go to the board for adoption of the plans and specs. It is more likely that we will go to the board in September. And what he's referring to is originally we were planning on going to the board August 22nd, so he's saying it'll probably be the meeting after that. We are soliciting consultants for the Lovers Lane road repairs, design, right-of-way, and environmental. The funding source for this work requires a more extensive process than normal. It is my intention to give a more thorough update during the public information meeting. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. Developing the plans and specs for both the road and the levee themselves. And I know he's planning to do this public information meeting similar to the 2 we held during the storms in February, March. And that meeting should be sometime the end of this month, early next month. That email was sent on Friday, so it's pretty recent. It's only a couple days old. Beyond that, I don't really have any other updates unless you have some specific questions I can try to answer. I don't think Jim's here, not that I saw. But if there's anything else, I'd be happy to answer it.
Nothing specific. Just wanted to get an update to the people out there.
Absolutely. We're definitely working on it. The goal is to have it done before winter. It's obviously a persistent threat, especially if we get any significant rain, and we are cognizant of that and working diligently to make sure it gets done.
Okay, thank you. Hold on, Kevin. Supervisor Botello.
Yeah, I have a question. Going back to my days when I was on the Resource Conservation District, and we were trying to do exactly, clean that channel, and we ran out of time. Fish and Game or Wildlife Services, whatever heck they are now. They take out their brains, but what is there any deadline of getting into the channel that we got to be concerned with, or because when you get into September, it's come to a board in September. By the time you do the RFP, that's another month if we're lucky, and then now it's November and it's a rainy season. A lot of times you get 2 inches of rain in the end of October.
I'm not aware of any timelines that have been put forth by Fish and Wildlife or anyone else. Jim Pulfer would be able to, I think, speak to that a little more than I would. But like I said, we're absolutely. I know he knows, we have a weather timeline. We could get rain as early as, significant rain as early as October. And the levee, it needs to be there for a little bit too before it can handle any rain.
And that's I was pleased that Supervisor Medina pulled this just so we could bring it out and let folks that live down there know what's going on. But I get a sense that they're here today because they don't see a whole lot happening, and they know how government moves, and we're living to that reputation. We got to get the levees in no matter what. At least that. The road maybe not so much as the levees.
Absolutely, completely agree. And for the Lover's Lane, I'll be here. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Just come and find me after this update. Anything you guys need, I'd be happy to answer as best I can.
Right.
Thanks again.
Yeah, today your board will be hearing on item number 20. I think probably a larger solution to the actual problem, and we'll be enlightened a little bit more. But the Pacheco Creek Reservoir on your agenda will be asking your board for a letter of support. Currently, the project, or the capacity, of the reservoir is 5,500 acre feet, and looking at expanding that to 140,000 acre feet, which kind of really gets to the root of the problem. It can withhold a lot more water and not have so much water going down the levee area. So I think this is going to be kind of a real good fix when we do have some significant rains before us. So just want to let the board be aware of that as well.
Okay. Thank you, Ray. Okay, anyone else in the public on this item pertaining to the resolution of extending the emergency ordinance?
And it may not.
I'm sorry, madam, you might have to come up to the podium.
I just wanted to ask Kevin, when will we have the predictions on what the weather's going to be this winter?
So I think what District Attorney Hooper is referring to is every fall we get a briefing from the National Weather Service about what we're predicting for the upcoming winter. And to answer that question, I have not heard from them yet in terms of scheduling that, but I believe in the past it was in the September, October timeframe, so we should be hearing any time. And I'd be happy to bring that information back to the board as well if you'd be interested in hearing, or possibly even inviting the Weather Service to come and give you a brief update as well, whatever your pleasure is.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kevin. Please direct all your questions to the board.
I'm standing here before you as the husband of the superintendent of the North County Joint Union School District. When you do have these public hearings with regards to the Lover's Lane area, would you please include the school districts that are affected? My understanding, and my wife did not ask me to be here, but my understanding is that she is still not able to do her bus runs down Lover's Lanes because of the condition of the roadways. And when these things become surprises, you have to understand what it does to the school district. Somebody like my wife has to drive down there through the floods, through the water, to determine whether her school buses can run that morning. We're talking about, this is at 5:30 in the morning, where we do not include things like the high school district or North County in these discussions about what's going on or notices of meetings. It really does impact whether kids can come to school or not that day, and how are they going to get there. I'm not embellishing this because I'm one of the people that sometimes has to go down that road, to see what's going on. So please do include the superintendent of North County and I suppose the high school if they're running the buses down there as well.
Thank you. We'll do it. Thank you very much.
And I believe we're planning on holding the meeting at Spring Grove, so that should possibly take care of that one. But we'll absolutely include all the relevant stakeholders so everyone's aware of what's going on.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else from the public?
Morning, Kevin. Good morning. Marty Richmond from Hollister. Of course, I'm not in opposition to extending the emergency ordinance, but I am somewhat confused, and someone else in the public arena asked me a question about it, and I don't know the answer, so I'll bring it to you. So we've got an emergency ordinance, we're extending this, and we're an emergency, so we can do some things. Are we considered to be an emergency by the state? Are we considered to be an emergency area by the federal government? Or are we a local emergency and then we want to go clean the channel, and everybody else at the state is going, well, they're not an emergency for us. We haven't declared that an emergency, therefore Fish and Wildlife, or whoever it is, whoever you were insulting last, I can't remember who that was, they're not in emergency mode. So what good does that do us? In other words, are we in emergency mode at the state? Does the state recognize that we have an emergency? And have they have we talked to our representatives at the state legislature to go into those agencies and say, we have an emergency in San Benito County. They have an emergency ordinance that they're extending. What are you doing to move along the critical issues of cleaning the channel and doing the levee? Because if you don't clean the channel and you don't do the levee, it's going to be years until they open up another reservoir in Pacheco. I don't disagree that it might help, but it'll be many years until that comes into effect. So what are we supposed to do? Sit around here and just get flooded out forever because everybody's waiting for the new reservoir to open up? I hope you can, I'll sit down and hope you can give me this direct answer whether or not we're in an emergency at the state level, at least that level. I don't think we're at the federal level. Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on to your response, Kevin. Anyone else from the public? No, close. Go ahead, Kevin.
So as the board's well aware, back in the heat of the storms, the state and the federal government declared and proclaimed an emergency in San Benito County. They have since terminated that proclamation. However, it is my understanding that the reason we do continue to do our local proclamation is because the levees do continue to pose a threat to life, property, including county property, and the environment. Everything that I've seen, the state and the feds are trying to work with us. Our local emergency ordinance does give us certain authorities to be able to get work done. However, it does not allow us to bypass any state or federal laws. And even as such, state and federal proclamations normally don't do that as well. Many times when the governor or the president declare or proclaim a emergency in an area, it has to do more with a funding source, which we have received. It's a grant, it's based on reimbursement, and resources in terms of manpower and equipment. Those still exist if we request them. However, we still need to go through the plans and specs and the environmental precautions that we're going through now, which is why this is kind of getting dragged out a little bit. So with that, I think I answered the question. If I didn't,
So Kevin, you're saying that because we extending the emergency, we're still eligible for reimbursement? But better yet, we're still getting reimbursements.
Yeah, we could cancel the emergency today and we would still be eligible for reimbursement. That is done. We have already been identified as being eligible by the state and by the federal government, so we're getting 75% cost share from the federal government, and then of the 25% that's left, the state is picking up 75% of that. So that's done. That is there. We have submitted all of our eligible projects. They're well aware of everything, and
so if we identified a new project after this extension of the emergency, who picks up that expense for that new project?
So right now I haven't been notified that we can't add more projects. Normally what we have is called a kickoff meeting, which is where FEMA comes in, we sit down, we give them a list of all of our projects, and we start to move forward in the process. And traditionally we have 90 days since that kickoff meeting. They have not notified us that they're holding us to that 90 days, that 90 days has passed, or that we're no longer eligible to submit projects. I actually was just made aware of a project in Supervisor Botello's district recently. A tree fell onto a gentleman's property that we are working on adding to our list because it's a pretty big tree. And but we're getting close to where any projects that may be storm related, it's going to be difficult to add them. And they're flexible. They're willing to work with us. They know that this is a big county with a lot of rural areas, and we don't have eyes everywhere, and things happen. So,
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board? Ouch.
Move approval of consent item 6.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you. We will now go to closed session. County Council.
Okay, item number 25, closed session conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation pursuant to subdivision D4, Government Code Section 54956.9. The board added one additional case, so now it's going to be number of cases 3. Number 26, closed session conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, subdivision A and D1 of Section 54956.9. Name a case, Award Homes versus County of San Benito, City of Hollister et al., Superior Court of California, County of San Benito, case number CU 15-00099. 27, closed session conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Section 54956.9, number of cases 2. This session is authorized by subdivisions D2 and E1 of Section 54956.9. Number 28 is closed session conference with labor negotiators, agency designated representatives, Dania Torres Wong, Ray Espinoza, Joe Paul Gonzalez, Melinda Casillas, Barbara Thompson, and Steve Coffey. Employee organizations or institutions, association, law enforcement, management. And closed session, number 29 is closed session, public employee appointment, resource management agency director, authority is Government Code Section 54957.
Anyone from the public wish to discuss those items that are about to go to closed session? Then we will go to closed session. Okay, coming out of closed session. County Council, do you have anything to report out of closed session?
There was no report.
Thank you very much. Now we'll continue with our regular agenda. First item on the regular agenda will be 19, correspondence to the County of Santa Clara County Planning Commission requesting that the traffic mitigation efforts proposed by ZBES regarding routing. Ray?
So Louis will be reporting out, our management analyst.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. So the item that is before you is as directed by the board. This is the ZBEST item and the application that is before, or that was submitted to the Santa Clara County Planning Commission. Staff conducted a little bit more research. We reached out to planning staff in Santa Clara County and did some research online. We went ahead and put all of the associated documents that are related to this particular item in your agenda packet for your review. Pretty extensive documents. The status of the application, the file number online currently indicates, as I think you have been informed before, that the application is incomplete and that it will be resubmitted according to the information that the planner, Valerie Negrete from Santa Clara County, provided. It's supposed to be, or scheduled to be, resubmitted by the end of the month. However, what she did indicate is that there would probably be a full-blown EIR process associated with this project, which means that there will be opportunities for additional community input and comments to be provided. We have asked that San Benito County be placed on any information distribution list that will give the public an opportunity to provide comments on this project. But we did go ahead and draft the letter as directed. We provided in the letter for support, generally speaking, of any mitigation measures that would be incorporated as part of the permit that might at some point be issued by Santa Clara County to incorporate any measures that would improve safety and transportation in general in the area of California Highway 25 where the ZPAS facility is located. So we did distribute that letter. Supervisor Botello took a look at that along with Supervisor Munzer. It was deemed to be appropriate, and it's in front of you for your review. So we certainly can send the letter, but I also think the board should know that there will be additional opportunities in the future to provide a bit more constructive comments based upon the actual application and what measures are going to be formally proposed by ZBEST at that time.
Okay, thank you. Is anyone from the applicant here wish to speak to the board on the subject matter?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Victor Gomez, Pinnacle Strategy, representing ZBEST. We've reviewed the letter, obviously, that was posted publicly. Your staff did reach out to us and chat with us a bit. He's 100% correct on the time frame of this application. So we're hoping to have the application submitted later this month. There will be an extensive time for the board to make any comments about the project at that time. The traffic mitigation that we reviewed with each of you individually is what we hope to eventually get approved by the Planning Commission of Santa Clara County. But again, that needs to be approved by Caltrans District 4. So we could have all the desires in the world, but if it's not approved by Caltrans, they may come back and say, hey, look, you need to reconfigure the intersection there or do something different. But with that said, we are committed to making sure that we keep each and every one of you, including your staff, in the loop as the application moves forward, and I'm sure Valerie will do the same thing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions of the board? Supervisor Botello?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I thought Mr. Valdez did a great job, drafting this letter and bringing the point is to bring awareness to Santa Clara County as far as not only just the ZBES project, but any project that occurs within that corridor, whether it's on our side of the county line or on the other side of the county line. I know on social media sometimes we get accused of, well, we're not the commuters, the elected leaders don't commute on that road. Well, I drive that road about 3 or 4 times a day, and a lot of times during commute hours, and we also have family and friends that drive that road. We just want to make it as safe as possible, and when the application is submitted and reviewed by Santa Clara Planning, being able to look at the mitigations, I'm sure it'll be just fine. I think we're all after the same thing, so I appreciate everybody's cooperation, ZBES cooperation, and Santa Clara's, and respectfully request the board to approve sending this letter.
Okay, thank you. Any more other comments from the board before I open up to the public? None? Open up to the public. Anyone from the public? None, I'll close it. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to forward the letter to Santa Clara.
And Mr. Botello, if you could add to authorize the chair to sign that letter on behalf of the board.
Add what?
Authorize the chairman to sign the letter on behalf of the board.
Oh, yes, and have the chairman of the board sign this.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 20. Approved letter of support for the Pacheco Reservoir Expansion Project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, staff and administration, myself and Louis Valdez had the opportunity to meet with Jeff Catano a few weeks back, and Jeff came into my office to discuss the Pacheco Reservoir Expansion Project. He went into some great detail of the benefits. In the staff report, there are some highlights of some of those benefits for the county. One was discussed this morning about the being able to reduce the risk of flooding along the Pacheco Creek, which I think is really something we want to look at, and there's quite a few other benefits as well. So with that, Jeff Catano has asked to provide a letter of support. I think there's representation from San Benito County Water District. If you wouldn't mind just stepping up and maybe saying a few words.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Sarah Pendleton is here to represent the Water District. Sarah.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Singleton from the San Benito County Water District. Before you have a resolution and a letter asking for your support in a grant application for the Pacheco Expansion Project. Excuse me. Santa Clara County Water District is the lead applicant and is preparing the grant application. San Benito County Water District and Pacheco Pass Water District have worked with them and support the effort. The proposed project includes the construction of a new earthen dam to hold 141,000 acre-feet. That's an expansion from the current capacity of 6,000 acre-feet. The project is estimated at $800 million, and the grant funding has the possibility of 50% funding from Prop 1 funds, and it is a competitive grant. Community support is important in that evaluation of that competitive process. There are benefits, as Mr. Espinoza indicated, for our county that include water supply reliability, flood control, and environmental benefits. This project would enhance the continuity of flow in Pacheco Creek to maintain the groundwater recharge that happens at current or better levels than exist. It establishes a more continuous habitat for steelhead. This project has the unusual benefit of being a dam or reservoir project that the fisheries people support. That's unusual. Storage on this side of Pacheco Pass helps operational flexibility and provides better water supply reliability for irrigation and for water treatment plants. Water quality benefits, to be able to store water elsewhere besides San Luis during low point issues and when they have buildup of organic compounds is also a benefit. Santa Clara has done some hydrologic modeling and has done work to demonstrate that there are flood control benefits, and that would help on Pacheco Creek, and that would have been a benefit for Lover's Lane. This project would also solve a problem for Pacheco Pass Water District. They have more repair work that needs to be done than they have money. So it's an indirect solution, and they would maintain the same benefits. The county would maintain the same benefits and possibly greater. Santa Clara County Water District would have to maintain the existing water rights benefits to this county that exists today. Pacheco Pass Water District does need to resolve this problem. They have issues that with the Division of Safety of Dams, and they need to be able to do those repairs to be able to maintain their license to store water. This project is widely supported and including locally the Farm Bureau of San Benito County, the City of Hollister, the City of Watsonville, and the Pajo River Flood Prevention Authority. So happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, so there's not too many projects that happen that everything's a positive. There's not too many. There's not a negative that I could think of going forward with this. And the San Benito County Water District and the Santa Clara Water District has historically have had a great working relationship as well. And with that, I'll open it up. Any questions from the Board of Supervisors? Seeing none, I'll open it up for public comment. And I'll turn back the chairmanship back to the chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Patel.
Good afternoon or good morning again. Marty Richmond from Hollister. I guess the term would be I'm going to carry some water on this from the city. So the city did vote to support this last night, but I'd like to carry some unofficial my information because as a member of the audience last night, and the city did express some concerns about wanting to encourage Santa Clara County to look toward providing water recreation. Now, I understand there's all kinds of difficulties regarding reservoirs and water recreation and cleanliness and safety, and it's a complex problem. So no one has the solution. But I would ask that you support the city in this. That's how they got over the hump and voted for it, and I would ask that you add some language to your letter of support and say that we encourage Santa Clara County to look toward providing whatever recreational benefits they can in compliance with all the laws and regulations concerning reservoirs and water availability. And I think just getting them to look at it is step one. How it turns out, no one can possibly know at this stage. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public?
Rob Bernosley. Excuse me. You're the patriarch of the public comment, so I'll defer to you.
Give him 2 minutes.
I'm sorry?
You only allowed 2 minutes.
Look at that, he changed it too. No, Rob Bernoski, Secretary of the Pacheco Pass Water District. The Pacheco Pass Water District is sort of like you inherit a farm or something along those lines, and there's a lot of maintenance and problems with it. But you go and you open up the barn and you find a 1962 Cadillac in there that's just a diamond in the rough, and you come across this treasure. We are in partnership with the Santa Clara Valley Water District and the San Benito County Water District to create this expansion, which is very valuable to all the parties involved, most of all San Benito County. And a lot of the people that have spoken or what has been said is very true. There are a great deal of benefits here. You folks ultimately have jurisdiction over this, and what you have to consider also is if you don't or we don't get this project done, you don't endorse the supportment letter, you're going to have a bigger problem on your hands. We do have a lot of repair work that has to be done. We have a lot of compliance issues that has to be dealt with, and they're all very expensive. Through this partnership, we can take care of a great deal of that. We might have to run some other traps in the meantime, depending on how long this process takes. But I really do urge you to support this for all of the issues outlined and all of the issues that you will avoid. I can't speak to Marty Richmond's comments. I wasn't at the City Council meeting, but we do own some very valuable water rights that will be needed in this county to manage the basin. And I also want to remind you, we have a lower dam and a lower facility that are within San Benito County that has its own water rights. And through this process, we might be able to get that functional as well, because that too is in a separate barn and is a whole other consideration. But for the, if you're in this for the long term of the county, you really do need to support this project, and members of the community need to realize that as well. So the other dam, you may not know about it. It's off of Los Fibros Road. It works right now because it's it gets clogged up with tree limbs and branches and serves a purpose, but it really does need to be, turned on and fully functional. So anyway, thank you in advance for supporting this.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Actually, hold off to the close of public comment. Anyone else? I'll close it. Okay, go ahead.
I would just like to address the comments from Mr. Richmond. This is a water supply grant, Prop 1 funds, and as I mentioned, it's a competitive grant. The assessments and the awarding of the grant will be based on water supply merit. They're also looking for regional support and regional impact, and we certainly have that. At this point, I would, it's the pleasure of you supervisors, but my recommendation would not be to condition your support because it's a water supply focus. The time to express that is once the grant is given and the feasibility studies are done, EIRs. Santa Clara Valley Water District has a good track record of providing recreational opportunities, but I think conditioning that would be premature in the process. I do have a copy of the slide from the staff presentation from Santa Clara Valley Water District to their board regarding the Prop 1 benefits categories and the public benefits, and they list them to their board as ecosystem restoration, ecosystem water quality, flood damage reduction, recreation, the potential future consideration of that, and emergency response. So I think they are well aware of the need to explore the recreational opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I move that we approve the letter of support for the Pacheco Reservoir Expansion Project and authorize the chair to sign.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries 4-0.
I'll make a motion to approve the San Benito County resolution. We just approved the letter, right?
Let's see.
So we have a resolution here,
That's
don't
correct.
we?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Is there a second?
I appreciate that, Anthony.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries. Thank you. So the letter of support was approved with authorization to the chair and resolution of Proposition 1 application. Okay, next item will be whole discussion related to the Panoche Valley Solar Project. Staff?
You can open it up.
On July 24th, 2017, the county issued a notice of default to the developers of the Panoche Valley Solar Project, stating that the project is in breach of sections 2.1, 2.5, and 2.8.1 of the development agreement. The development agreement required that Panoche Valley Solar provide permanent and temporary employment to county residents consistent with the approvals and the scope of work contemplated in the DA agreement. Additionally, as reflected in Section 2.2 of the agreement, the county's approval of the project was based in part upon the developer's agreement to provide the county additional public benefits. The county believes, by its announcement to relocate part of the project hundreds of miles away and reduce the size of the project that it will build in the county, Panoche Valley Solar has breached its agreement to develop the project consistent with the agreement, the EIR, and the county's conditions of approval. Specifically, Panoche Valley Solar has breached its agreement to support the county's efforts to increase available employment opportunities for county residents. Panoche Valley Solar has not established a business location and tax resale account for the project, exercised its best efforts to direct its contractors, and taken other reasonable steps to maximize the receipt of sales and use tax revenue to the county. Additionally, the county is concerned whether the project is being developed as studied and permitted by the county. I'm going to open this item for Joe Paul Gonzalez, the county auditor, to talk about the fiscal impacts of this project.
Sure. Joe Paul, would you like to?
To make it a little bit easier for the board to see, I hurriedly put a PowerPoint together. Okay. First, I want to preface by saying that the PV2 project revenues, there's two types that were for the county that were expressed in the development agreement. One was in lieu of unsecured property tax, and the other was sales and use tax. These projections that you're about to see are based upon public information that was provided in San Jose Mercury about this December 23rd, 2009. These were public statements made by representatives of the corporations at the time to what they felt the project the project assessments would be, what the value of the project would be. There were local business roundtable meetings where this one was held in March 18, 2015, where statements were made about the value of this project. So we don't have any direct information from the current corporation, Con Ed, concerning values yet. So these are purely projections on our part. The assessor, Tom Slavich, took these public statements and said, okay, based upon these statements, this is what he believes the values of the project will be as far as the in lieu of tax. You could see in this frame, for the 247 megawatt plant, he's projected that at the end of, by 2036, the county will have earned $13.5 million in this tax. That's for the 247 megawatt plant. That was the original agreement, DA project agreement. The current size of the plant, the county assessor has estimated that the county will receive about $4.3 million in lieu of property tax. Sales tax is a little bit different story. I put on here the schedule that the Board of Equalization posts on their website of how property tax is basically apportioned out. You know, currently the sales tax rate in the county, unincorporated county, is 7.25. You could see from this schedule that the county general fund towards the bottom receives 1% goes to county operations. Another 0.25%, quarter percent, goes to for transportation funding. That goes to the county's COG. The 1.0625% is the 2011 realignment funding. This is money that comes in that is used to deal with the I believe AB 109, the actual the governor's plan that moved all these low-level prisoners back to the counties, and probation had to deal with them, and the sheriff and corrections. So this is the money that funds that project. We also have the 1991 realignment money. That's 0.5%. That goes to mental health, public health, and health and human services to augment their programs. And then we also have another 0.5% that supports the county's law enforcement efforts. So this is money that's used directly in the sheriff's budget. So, using the public statements concerning, sales tax projections, what has been reported thus far, and a kind of an estimate of what purchases will probably, that may be made in the future. The sales taxes are calculated here based upon an estimate of $26 million in potential sales taxes being reported. You could see that on the third column we see the county general fund, and I've included in there the law enforcement share, which is 0.5%, so it's 1.5% there. And then next to it, the 1991 realignment, and then the 2011 realignment, the COG portion, the 0.25%. So total sales tax share that comes to the county is really 3.3125%. That's collected from the 7.25 rate. This means that in 2017, the county should have received $2.5 million in sales tax revenues in total. The following 2 years, is just they're just really estimates of what else would be purchased, and it could be as high as, in total, $12 million in sales taxes when looking at all of these pots of sales tax that comes to the county. This would have been for the 247 megawatt project, which the current project, the 126 megawatt project, would provide in sales taxes the $2.5 million that was calculated in the previous example, the 2017, and then a kind of a conservative estimate of what else needs to be purchased over the next couple years. So we're really looking at $4.6 million in sales taxes that will be due to the county under these assumptions for this project. And of course, the board is aware of the fact that the corporation that is developing this project did not create a purchasing corporation in the unincorporated county, and therefore none of the sales taxes were reported in San Benito County as as agreed to in the development agreement. So had we built the had the corporation built the 247 megawatt plant, if you combine the two types of tax revenues, the in lieu of the sales tax and the in lieu of property tax, the 247 megawatt plant would have produced revenue to the tune of about $25.6 million. The current size facility, the 127 megawatt facility, when adding these two revenue streams, should have brought in $8.9 million into the county. Again, it was $4.6 million in sales tax and another $4.3 million in lieu of property tax. And I just wanted to bring this to the board's attention. These are estimates based upon public information. We don't have any sort of direct reporting from Con Ed regarding these revenue sources.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Any questions to Joe Paul? Supervisor Patel?
I just have one question for Joe Paul.
Yes.
Just for clarifying, the auditing, of the books to make sure that we have, what every cent that we're owed. How does that occur in the development agreement? Is there a mechanism in the development agreement as far as the oversight on this?
Well, the mechanism was the county and the applicant both agreed that a purchasing corporation was going to be created in the unincorporated county, and all purchases were going to be reported there at that corporation, and therefore it would be reported correctly to the Board of Equalization so that the county would receive its over 3% share in sales tax, I don't know what other mechanism is available to us to ensure that we receive this, our correct share.
So we're going backwards with the equipment and services that were purchased. How do we arrive at a number that is that we should receive? Can we? It would just strictly be from the books of Edison, or would it be from the state franchise tax board, or how would we arrive at that number?
At this point, I don't have an answer to your question. I believe that is something that is going to have to be discussed with Con Edison to see how the county is going to be able to receive its rightful share of sales tax that it should have received per the DA agreement.
Thank you.
Supervisor Martina.
Have we asked them for a detailed list of the expenditures since the start of the project?
The county assessor has requested all that information. I can't speak on behalf of the assessor to whether they have received it.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We did send the PV2 a business property statement like we do any other business. They did file the statement. They did provide the cost breakdown for the project out there. We also did ask for some other documents per letter and per conference call, but we have not received those documents as of date.
Is that similar to the unsecured property tax that I filed a couple months ago?
Yes.
So I filed that, and it was pretty simplistic. One of your employees called me, made some corrections. So we would expect the same thing from anyone else.
Yes, they did, as I mentioned, they did file the statement. However, we asked for the power purchase agreement and also the contract between the master contractor and Con Edison for the cost to construct the project per megawatt price. Have not received those documents as of date.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you. Joe Paul? Barbara? That concludes your report, too?
Do you want me to address the different options or after public comment?
I will give the applicant an opportunity to address the board. Eric, you want to address the board?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Eric Chernus. I work with Consolidated Edison Development, and I've been developing the Pinoche Valley Solar Project for the last number of years. First, let me just say that we recognize that the communication with the county regarding some of these complex issues has not been ideal, and we are working hard to rectify that moving forward. We do have a commitment that PVS will make good on all of its obligations under the development agreement, which are substantial. They include not only the payment in lieu of property tax, which was recently discussed. There's the sales tax commitment as well. And thirdly, there's actually a reimbursement agreement that we have with the county regarding all issues surrounding the development activities and supporting the permits that are out there. As far as the sales tax, I think that there were some issues associated with that. There was actually a memo that was created by a group called HDL that was contracted for by the county that did identify and highlight certain issues that had occurred with the payment of sales tax. And those were, I think we received that memo at the beginning of last month. So over the course of last month, we have retained outside counsel, and we do believe we have certain fixes in place to rectify that situation with the county. And to go above and beyond, I think, and to hopefully help to alleviate some of the trust factor issues, Pinoche Valley Solar is willing to and actually has reached out to the county to discuss opening an escrow account whereby we could deposit the monies that would eventually become due to the county through the Board of Equalization to ensure that the county has that level of protection that the sales tax that have been committed will eventually find their way to the appropriate coffers. Third, I wanted to just comment on our commitment to engage in good faith with the county about its expectations of additional benefits if and when the remaining approvals for the reduced project are issued. Right now, the current we have the approvals necessary for the current 247 megawatt project, and we don't have approvals that are necessary to potentially reduce that project. So in the event that those approvals do come to fruition, we welcome and will continue to have what I hope to be a fruitful dialogue with both the supervisors and staff.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Any questions to Eric? Supervisor Patel?
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Turner, you're right. There's a feeling of mutual distrust now, and we're not working with the PV2 guy. We're working with Con Edison, and the problem that I've been having is that this issue we'll start with the sales tax, and I've got all afternoon, to talk about this. Really came up to light when you gave a report back in, was it April or May, when we were doing our revenue reviews for our upcoming budget, and come find out the sales tax was being diverted to the city of San Francisco for some odd reason. And, since that time, really nothing has been done to correct it. Is that a fair statement to make? Has an office opened up in the unincorporated areas that expenditures are now coming to the county of San Benito and being credited?
Yes, there has been a fix that's been put in place to resolve the future sales tax because materials are still arriving at the site. And we are also have changes that are in place to resolve retroactively some of the activities that have occurred on the site to fix that situation. So there have been quite a few activities that we have conducted both on our side of the fence and with the county of San Benito.
So where's that office at now?
It's actually on the project site on Little Pinoche Road. And so we can, I'd be more than happy. There's part of what took us a little bit of time here was we had to wrap our head around the situation. I think as we discussed in the development agreement, we were required to put this obligation upon our subcontractors. And so when it turned out that the activities and our expectations was the same as yours, that sales tax would have been paid in the right location, when it turned out that it wasn't, we had to go into an investigative mode to find out exactly where the break in the chain was and then put corrective actions in place. And that has taken longer than I think that we anticipated, at least, and we apologize for that. But we have what we believe is a fix in place, and we are doing corrective actions. We hope to have all that resolved within the end of the quarter, so at the end of September, to be able to have firm documentation. We have some of it now, but there's certain tax filings that need to occur to effectuate some of these changes. And once that's done, or even sooner, we'd be more than happy to walk through with both yourself or members of the staff as you see fit.
It would probably be members of the staff, our auditors and assessors would probably be more qualified than anybody on this dais. But
and I probably wouldn't be sharing the information. You're right, sir.
Yeah, and that's good. Does Con Edison, they understand the development agreement is for 247 megawatts in Pinoche Valley, and whatever settlement that they arrived at with anybody else, it doesn't really matter until this board approves anything, and we're kind of stuck on 247 because that's the bottom line.
Supervisor Botello, I hear you. I understand the concern of the county, and I think at this time we have approvals to on the 247 megawatt project. We do not have approvals to construct a reduced size project. And at the moment, with the activities that are occurring on the site, we feel that we are living up to the terms of the development agreement and making good on the payments for both the reimbursement agreement, the payment in lieu of tax, which was paid, I think, a couple weeks ago, and the sales tax commitments, which require kind of best efforts, and we are rectifying that situation. Sir?
I know we had that meeting yesterday, and I'm bringing out quite a few things that we discussed. I think the public needs to know, and the board at the time when we approved this project, it was for quite a bit more than even 247. We were attracted to it not only with the sales tax, the unsecured property taxes, but also the job opportunities that it would provide for folks that live in our county. How can you verify that we are enjoying any labor benefits? Is that with your subs and, the accountability factor is kind of lacking, I think, and maybe we should have shored that up in our development agreement as far as some sort of auditing mechanism to make sure that we were receiving the benefits of all those things.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think the accountability is there. I think the visibility needs to be improved, and that's something that's on us. We have a couple different areas in where it comes in a couple different types. You have local employment, which is direct employment by folks that are operating on the project site. There was other commitments also made to the county about working with local vendors as well. So we have not only the construction activities that are occurring on the site, there are special events that, as you gather large groups of people together, that are occurring at different locations within inside the county, and then we have the long-term operation of the facility. And so those contractors, which are both Panoche Valley Solar direct employees and also our subcontractors, we've been gathering and encouraging the use of local contractors, local services to help stimulate the local economy here. That's different than the direct jobs, because your question is well understood and heard, and we do have communication out there with both our subcontractors and the different kind of union officials that we deal with for helping provide the skilled workforce on the project site. So we are gathering that information. We'll be reporting that back to the board as soon as it's available. I do want to report one of the conditions that we had inside the development agreement was ensuring that our subcontractors, we passed the language that was provided by the county to the project to ensure there's a preferential hiring for local individuals, and we have put that into our subcontracts. So I think the enforcement mechanisms are there. I think the transparency is lacking, and that's on us to solve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just it. The transparency is lacking. I was one of the biggest flag wavers to get this project through. I thought it was great for the environment. There was a mitigation there for habitat, which is unsurpassed by anywhere in the state. The revenue stream was really helped this county. And the jobs, we don't have that many times, at least since I've been on the board, to have that available either. And I would like to see the list of vendors that are working on the project and where they're based. It just, and I understand not everybody's that come from Hollister, but it would be great to see what the list is if somebody is coming from Hollister.
Yes, sir. Can I forgot one extra item. I spoke with Fire Chief Del Campo and Sheriff Darren Thompson just to confirm one of the other parts of our, it wasn't actually part of the development agreement, it was part of the conditional use permit as a requirement by the county that we would have separate both sheriff and fire support within that region of San Benito County. And so I confirmed with them. They were hoping to attend, but their jobs are a little bit difficult these days. But they wanted to voice, or at least just convey to the board, that we are up to speed on all invoices that have to do with providing additional services within inside that area. And they were both supportive of being able to hire additional employees that could serve a slightly underserved part of the community.
And lastly, Mr. Chairman, the settlement agreement that you had with these other parties, I don't know who they, specifically who they are or how it reads. It consisted of a downsizing of Panoche Valley. It also I guess that's with shifting solar panels to Mojave Desert that should be placed in Pinoch Valley, and also putting in permanent conservation lands that are in our county, which I think needs board approval. Because that affects our tax base and so forth. It was always Edison's intention to pay Samuel County the full for 247 megawatts and not put that land in conservation. Try to put it in conservation easement without a discussion of this board.
I think we are trying to ensure that we have an open dialogue with the board. I'm not sure if I totally understood the question, though, Supervisor Botello, but we're working to improve our level of communication with the board and staff.
Okay.
Does it?
Part of that settlement agreement was to put lands from Pinoch Valley into a conservation easement
Yes,
by
sir.
Pinoch Edison. And when did you plan on letting us know about that or requesting that?
Right now the project is 247 megawatts. There was a settlement agreement that was executed. There are a number of additional approvals above and beyond just San Benito County that have not yet come to fruition. And so I think that if and when those approvals come through, I think that there's a constructive dialogue that needs to be had with the county and staff to determine an appropriate path forward. And at this time, we don't have all of the approvals necessary, so it'd be a little premature for me to say exactly what we would do in that hypothetical situation. Is that?
Well, okay. Apparently, I hope we set up some sort of mechanism going forward here that our dialogue and communications with our staff, information shared, and between the Board of Supervisors and the public needs to be a lot more clear, because some of this stuff's not a fly. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Supervisor Medina?
I came on in January, so everything was already set with PV1, along with Con Edison taking over. A couple of questions I have is just, it's not even transparency, it's just common sense and simplistic accounting. How much money have you paid in sales tax since you started until the end of Q2? Do we know that?
I apologize. I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Is it possible to send me the amount you paid in sales tax?
Yes.
So when we're talking about lack of communication, I mean, I know you look at Ray, you look at our staff here. It's just it's reckless when we can't just sit down and talk about this and not have a grandstand here with the audience listening to us, when we just can't just communicate one to each other. We're looking at a large amount of money, a pitfall of, when you look at anywhere from $4 million to $13 million. If it was the other way around, if someone owed you that, I know where you guys would be. So I'm just looking at this saying we need resolution on this. We need follow through. I mean, I sat with, I think it was back in March or April, we sat and had lunch with Mr. Dixon. Mm-hmm. And once again, that's 3 or 4 months that went by. And we're in the same place, if not even worse than we were back then. That's what I just don't understand. How you run a company that is represented, publicly traded, and the information is just falling somewhere. And once again, the only thing I can say is we need resolution, and we don't need it months from now. We need it now. So let's see what we can do with that sales tax, and let's see what we can do with coming up with all the dollars you owe us, and we can move forward.
Thank you, Superintendent. Supervisor Rivas?
Yeah, the only thing I can add is I certainly can't blame, Eric or anyone else. I know this. What's really frustrating about this project is it's switched hands a few times. But it really is just the frustration. I wasn't a member of this board when the decision was made to move forward on this project. But what's frustrating is at the time this was a project that was introduced as this landmark project, a cutting edge project, and so our staff, our board at the time, made the commitment to expedite the project. In 2009 or 10, and here we are in 2017. And what I see as a member of this board now is a development agreement that, the commitments aren't being made, in particular by you guys or by the party that's responsible for this project. I look back at this project, and it was a unique project because it was, I think, one of the first times in our county history that we took land out of the Williamson Act for this project. I thought it set a terrible precedent of designating so much land, in reserve, at the time. And here we go, and at the end of the day, we have nothing to show for it, 7-8 years later. And so we hope that moving forward that we can get some quick resolution with staff and prove that line of the communication. But at the end of the day, it would be nice under the current the development agreement to be made whole, clearly. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. There was a time when former Supervisor Barrios and myself went up to Sacramento and lobby Luis Alejo, and I think it was Anthony Canela, and sat down with your guys' group and the lobbyists to try to figure out a resolution, and because we believed in this project being beneficial to our community. And now to hear the numbers, specifically what Joe Paul presented to us, it saddens me. I mean, that's the best way I can say about it. But we understand. We're big men. We're grown men. We understand, and we're going to hash this thing out, and hopefully you do commit from an economic value at the 247. And I know you have 125 out there on the floor at the moment, and I don't know what else to say, but just to say that we did have gentlemen's agreements, and I think it's time that your party fulfills that obligation. I'm going to open up to the public. Anyone from the public?
Marty Bishop from Hollister. I've been an enthusiastic supporter of this project. I'm sure if I understand there's problems. I don't think they fulfilled their obligations concerning the taxes. Things they said they would do: open up a local place for taxing, make sure everything came through the county, and all this stuff. And I don't think PV2 or Con Ed, whoever it was, I don't think they fulfilled their obligations. And you should go after them for every penny they owe us. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But let me tell you something. They didn't run this project down to 130 megawatts. The environmentalists ran it down to 130 megawatts. If they'd been given their head, they'd be building 245 or whatever the number was, or 360, whatever the original number was. But they've been sued into oblivion. And, you say we're grown-ups. You've been sued into oblivion on occasion. You know what's going on here. The environmentalists, with the support of a handful, or less than a handful, of local of local people have said, we're never going to let you build that project. And if you kill this completely, you'll be doing them a favor. You'll be giving them the big win. That's what they want to do, kill it completely. You know, I'd build out every megawatt I could there. Yes, I would make sure I got every tax dollar. But what are we doing? Where's the rest of these people? Where's the Sierra Club? I don't see them here. Where's the handful of people that stopped this project? I don't see them here. I don't see them here. All I've heard from them is baloney. Stuff they write in the paper that says, oh, we killed it because it wasn't properly funded. Really? Con Ed doesn't have the money? Con Ed's got plenty of money. Okay, they're the PG&E of Southern California. They're not some guy with $5 in his pocket. I stood up here and complained about the funding when it started until they fixed it because I wanted to see the project happen. I didn't want to kill it, so that's all baloney. This business of we are the stewards of the land. They don't even own the land they sued against. So they've sued them into oblivion and they made a business decision, and you would make the same business decision. Now, I agree. They haven't lived up their obligations on taxes, but you can't make them pay taxes for 245 megawatts that they can't build with no fault of their own. Where are our legislators? I saw all the applause from Fish and Wildlife over this agreement. Where are our legislators? Why weren't you in on the meetings? Why were you frozen out? Our legislators knew those meetings were going on. You didn't. Shame on them and shame on you.
Thank you, Marty. Anyone else from the public? No speaker cards? Okay, I'll bring it back to the board. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Yes, I can go over the staff recommendation. We wanted the board to consider making a motion, and this is the recommendation of staff, is to direct staff to continue to pursue their dispute resolution process. That's the dispute resolution process set forth in the DA agreement. We're in informal discussions right now. We've issued the notice of default. There's been a response to the notice of default. The next step would be mediation and then arbitration. The second step would be authorize staff to evaluate the status of the Panoche Valley project's entitlements in light of the breach of the development agreement and the fundamental change in the project definition arising from the settlement of the federal environmental litigation, and to take any appropriate action to enforce the county's ordinances and state laws. And that include after staff evaluates it, scheduling the matter before the Planning Commission for revocation of the conditional use permit, and having the Planning Commission at least consider that as an option. And that would be included under option number 2. And then third is to authorize staff to evaluate issuing appropriate stop work orders after investigation of the issue, and that would be under the San Benito County Code, Chapter 1.03.
Thank you, Barbara. So those are the recommendations. Any supervisor wish to provide directions to staff on any of those recommendations?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept all those recommendations. And also have a kind of a standing item on our agenda as far as the progress with the dialogue, information, and recovery of owed revenues to the county.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Against? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
And then we'll put that item as a standing item on the future agendas. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, next item, 23, County Council.
Michael Colantuno has been assisting the county in conjunction with the work proceeding under the notice of default under the development agreement. I'm presenting a proposed amendment to the scope of legal services agreement, adding an additional $290,000 to provide legal representation in matters relating to this issue, the Panoche Valley Solar Project. Now that he has an estimated of a broad range of fees, it may not actually come up to $290,000, but that's the aggressive number that it actually could be if it's resolved with, through settlement, or if it's resolved through for example, just the arbitration and mediation process through the DA agreement, then the number could be closer to maybe $115,000. But I thought that since I'm bringing it for the board and in full disclosure of what the absolute highest, what we view as the aggressive, authorization, I wanted the board to understand the full scope of the fees that could be involved in this case. And so I was going to bring it to the board for asking for approval for amendment number 1 for the legal services agreement with Michael Colantuno's office. And of course, we'll try to keep those fees, to the amount that we can, but this would be having the full scope, which would involve, both the arbitration and the mediation, and also, any potential litigation and, potentially the representation at the Planning Commission as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the board? Supervisor Medina?
Yeah, just looking at $290,000, not to exceed. I think at this point in time, what I'm looking at is we need to meet with Con Edison, with our CAO, yourself, and 2 board members, and hash this out between ourselves and save a lot of money. That should be our first step. So I think right now, in my opinion, we're putting something in front of us that we don't need to right now. I think we need to try to work this out between us and not use a third party.
I think that maybe if the board was concerned about the dollar scope of that, you might want to lessen it to a lower amount to get the started on the process. This is a huge project, even if we do a revocation and the conditional use permit through the Planning Commission. There's an extensive volume of records, and it's going to take a significant amount of legal work on this issue. I think that if you weren't comfortable with the $290,000 right now, then I would estimate that you probably should do maybe $115,000 or some lesser amount to get the process started to see where it evolves. I mean, if there's a settlement agreement that comes out of this situation where the parties resolve the breach of the DA agreement, then that's all the better. I mean, the goal is not to spend this amount of money, but then again, having this, so you have this resource in place is pretty crucial. I mean, the volume of records on this one, I mean, it's going to take a lot of hours to move this forward in a correct fashion.
Supervisor Botello?
Yeah, I get nervous when this could turn into a fight, and we have to weigh every single one of our options, and we got to be willing to invest in this this fight. And if we don't have the right people at the table, we get in trouble. We've had this different past contracts review, and I certainly would like to have the best legal advice on our side as we go forward.
Okay, Supervisor. No? Okay, let me open it up to the public. Anyone from the public? None, I'll bring it back. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
No. 2-2. Motion fails. Put it at the next board meeting so we can have the 5th supervisor.
Okay, would it be, if the board would consider an alternative option, would you like to consider a lesser amount for the contract?
I'll make a motion.
And then I can delegate the authority to the CAO to execute a contract in the amount. Let's say if you wanted to keep the work going on the project, you could go $60,000, $80,000, $100,000, or $115,000, some lesser amount.
I will support $60,000 at the moment.
Okay.
How much?
$60,000.
60.
Is there a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion to lower the not to amount to exceed to 60,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against?
No.
No. Okay, motion carries 3-1. Okay, next item is, oh, shoot, can't read. Next item, approve an offer of employment for Resource Management Agency Director. Appointment at Step B with all benefits provided to other appointed department heads. Ray?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. On July 19th and July 27th, your staff, as well as a member of the public and our ad hoc committee made up of Supervisor Medina and Supervisor Jerry Munzer, interviewed RMA director candidates, and after consideration, the majority of the panel agrees to move forward with Mr. Groten at Step E, and he is currently an interim RMA deputy director now, and been doing the job for some time, and we feel that he is qualified and would like to move forward with this person. So,
any questions of the board? None. Open up to the public. Anyone from the public? None. I'll close it. What's the pledge of the board?
I move that we approve an offer of employment for Resource Management Agency Director, appointment Step E, with all benefits provided to the appointed department head. Standard 90 days prior notice, 90-day severance.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against, motion carries 4-0. Thank you. We will now go to closed session. County Council?
We read all the
we already read
sessions
them.
earlier,
That's
so
right.
we're going to adjourn back into
Correct.
closed session.
Now we'll adjourn back to closed session.